Okay, we're going to get started in about a minute. We're going a little bit past 6:30.
Hi,
So
Amanda.
Amanda's arriving, and Amelia and Dr. Yarnell. Hi, Mrs. Furlong. Are you going to do public comment tonight?
Yeah.
You are?
Yes.
Great. So we're going to give us like another minute.
I hope that.
Nah, I think everything was sent out ahead of time.
So we're going to start off our meeting with public comment, and then Sean will take over and Amanda.
Sue Furlong, West Rockhill Township. I have three things that I would love for the auditor to explain a little bit how she handled it, or how it was handled. One would be the what kind of review was taken for events where there's a cash gate, especially the football field, and any other sport with a large turnout plus the concession stands. I would like to have an update. We had a problem with our pension fund, and I'd like to know what's going on with that in terms of accurate reporting to Harrisburg, and were there any refunds and that type of thing to the district. And then the third thing would be, were the student activity accounts reviewed, and if so, what were the findings?
Okay, thank you. Okay. We have a couple items in finance. The big thing tonight will be presentation from our auditor. Sean, do you want to say anything before Amanda gets started?
I don't have to, Barry. We can turn it over to Amanda.
Okay, here we go then. One thing, we're going to hear you out. No one had any questions. I asked for questions prior to the meeting. Nothing came back. So you should be able to make it through. If a board member wants to ask a question, they're going to let me know. So you'll only be getting one, we're not going to be shouting out at you.
Okay, no problem.
At least not without you'll be ready for it.
Right.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I believe this was provided ahead of time. We have an audit presentation scheduled, so I'm just going to walk through that. We always start with our required communications, and then also we like to talk a little bit about the audit scope and timing. We've issued an unqualified or unmodified audit opinion, meaning the financial statements are fairly presented. We did not identify any material misstatements. We've also issued what's called a SAS 114 letter. That's just some additional required communications about whether we had any disagreements with management or encountered any significant difficulties. And I'm happy to report there were none. Prospectively, there is one item on the horizon. There's a new GASB pronouncement that's going to require you to report your OPEB liability. That's your other post-employment benefits, mostly the health insurance. Similar to the pension standards that we just went through about a year ago, the expectation is another large liability on the government-wide financial statements. And again, your net position is unfortunately going to take a hit. And similar, again, to the pension, it's something everybody is facing across the board. And really what you're going to see is there's going to be two pieces. One piece is passed down through PSERS, similar to the pension. The other piece is OPEB obligations that the school itself has promised. So we'll have a valuation report for the school district's portion and the piece passed down from PSERS. And like I said, just like the pension, it's going to get recorded as a liability, and there'll be another large 10-page footnote added to the financial statements. So really it's that liability and just some additional disclosures that will be involved there. And that is June 2017, so that will be next year. For our audit scope and timing, we received a trial balance and all the supporting schedules in a timely manner. The first thing we always do is we review the internal control system of the school. We had no material audit adjustments. For the actual work that was performed in the cash and investment area, we perform reconciliations between the bank and the books. We're also looking at the investment accounts, making sure that you're invested in obligations and items that you're allowed to be invested in under state law. We also review the Act 72 collateral, which is the deposits the bank is required to keep on hand in case of the bank going under. In the capital asset area, we vouch your material additions during the year, and we also review the calculated depreciation expense. For accounts payable, our concentration there is on completeness, and we want to make sure that expenses are recorded in the proper period. So we perform what's called a search for unrecorded liabilities. That involves looking at anything paid after year end and figuring out whether it should be booked to the prior year or left in the current year. On the debt, we send confirmations to the bank and verify your ending debt balances are correct, as well as the principal and interest payments for the year. The revenue area, we also use a large bit of confirmation procedures, so we're confirming the grants for Pennsylvania, we're confirming your assessed value, and recalculating your tax revenues. On the expense side, we perform pivot table analysis. Rather than just pick a sample of 40 items, which is what a lot of CPA firms do, we have more of a risk-based approach. So we're looking at all your expenses on a monthly basis, comparing it to last year. And what we're looking for is any spike, any anomaly, and that's really where then we're going to focus our testing. So again, it's a little better in our mind than just picking 40 items. We also perform data extraction. We have software that allows us to do some additional testing. We perform some general ledger analysis. We also look at payroll. Our subsequent disbursements testing is performed using the software. We look at journal entries. We perform a vendor test, and that's really just looking at your material vendors from one year to the next and seeing who went up and who went down. Direct deposit test, and we also use data extraction to look at the student activity funds. The next page is a review of the financial report. The first section A is the government-wide financial statements. That's the full accrual set of books. So we've laid out a 4-year comparison. As you can see, most of the balances are fairly consistent between the years. The one item that does always stick out is some of the pension-related items that just started for June 30, 2015. You can see there's a deferred inflow and outflow and a fairly large liability. So at the end of June 30, 2016, your ending net position was a negative $86 million. Now, a large part of that is that pension liability that started last year. As you can see, between 2014 and 2015, you took a very large hit to that net position. So really, what we're seeing this year is your deficit actually went down, which is a good sign. And that change was $6.8 million. So with the deficit increasing, that was the equivalent of profit for the year. On the general fund, we're reflecting $16.4 million in fund balance. A little shy of $9 million of that is unassigned, and that's an $850,000 decrease from the year before. Your food service fund reports a net position of negative $1.3 million. Again, there's a piece of the pension that's allocated to the food service, which really is what's creating that deficit. And that was a change in net position of $6,000 over the prior year. The next page, we've laid out the budget versus actual for the general fund. So I don't think I need to go through that in any detail, but we just wanted to show your revenues came in higher than budgeted, your expenses lower. So really that's good results compared to your budget. The next page, we provided an example of one of the fraud tests that we performed this year is called Benford's Law. Benford was a mathematician back in the day, and basically the expectation of most people is that a transaction dollar amount is just as likely to start with a 1 as it is a 6, a 7, an 8, and a 9, when really that's not the case. A majority of transactions start with a 1 and it follows a bell curve. So we were able to plot an expectation. And what happens is if somebody's going to commit fraud and let's say make up a vendor payment or something of that nature, what happens is they don't know about this expected curve. They're actually more likely to pick a 6 than they would a 1. So sometimes what we see if fraud is happening is spikes in this graph. So we were presenting this to show you what Pennridge's transactions looked like for the year, and really what you can see overall is they do follow the expected trend. So it's a little bit of a complicated explanation, but again, the goal is we're really looking for signs that fraud could be occurring, and then if anything pops up, we'll investigate further. The next one is very similar. It's called the 2-digit Benford's Law. And again, other than there were several spikes, for example, the 39s and the 40s. When we drill down to those, you have recurring fringe benefit charges running through your payroll that are causing those spikes. So we didn't find any fraud, but again, we wanted to show you this. Really, your transactions line up pretty equivalent to what we would expect in Benford's Law. Any questions on the financials or the scope of our audit?
I have a question. When you were talking about the page, I guess in the government-wide financial statements page, so can you just, the net position, can you explain what that means, and then what that pension, why that net pension liabilities came into play in 2015?
There was a new GASB pronouncement that was effective June 30, 15, that required you to book a liability for your pension obligation through PSERS. Prior to that, you only really reflected the expense as you paid it, as you made the contributions to PSERS. Starting last year, they required you to book a liability, the goal being to get the government financial statements more in line with the for-profit world, because they've been booking this pension liability for quite a number of years now.
So is this the unfunded part of the pension? And so
Correct.
instead of the state taking it over, they're dividing it out?
Yeah, technically, the state has its own piece of the PSERS plan, but everything else belongs to the various school districts. So in that year, PSERS provided the allocated piece of the overall PSERS to each school, and that's what is recorded. And yes, it's the unfunded liability.
Okay, thank you.
And net position really, and the similarity in the for-profit world is your retained earnings, your accumulated profits over the years. So really it's the difference between your assets and your liabilities.
So can we calculate what it's going to be, or that's not our calculation, is it?
You mean what it would be next year?
Well, if you look at 15, I don't know, I was just trying to ask Sean, but I'll just say it to everybody. We ended up at that 93 million deficit. That's the first time we reported it. And that was just for that line. So that was the number really, 93, or not really. Was
We
it
booked the liability all in
I'm
one
sorry,
year.
179 million, sorry.
Yeah. It was the $180 million hit. It happened all in one year, when really it was accumulation of all the prior year's pension. It was just, that was the date it was effective, so that was the point in which we started recording it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and what was why are we doing this? Why is GASB being altered again, or changed?
They're trying to get your government financial statements more in line with the for-profits.
That's the only reason.
Yeah. The for-profit companies have been booking this liability for probably at least 5 years before the GASB caught on. Same thing with OPEB. It's a liability they've recorded for quite a while. It's your full accrual statements. These liabilities never hit your general fund. Okay.
So, Amanda, I think what Barry may be looking for is what's the difference between the governmental-wide statements and then the fund statements?
Sure. Yeah, the fund level statements are what's called the modified accrual basis. So you book your accounts payable, your accounts receivable. Generally, following that there's a 60-day rule. So anything that's going to be paid or received within 60 days, you do record it like a for-profit company would. Anything else, for example, your long-term debt and your fixed assets, are two of the big areas. Also your pension, OPEB liabilities, and some other areas. Those are not recorded on the fund level statements, but then when we get to the government-wide statements, they are recorded on the full accrual basis. So on your fund level, when you incur an expenditure for a fixed asset purchase, it's nothing more than an expenditure. Whereas on the government-wide, it becomes an asset that's then depreciated.
Thanks. Are you doing anything else, or this is?
That's enough for me, yeah, unless you'd like more.
Anyone have any other questions for Amanda? I mean, this is our first look at this, and then it's really not our budget stuff will start probably after the holidays. Dr. Urnall?
Yes, I did scan through this, it's 69 pages of your report, so I didn't touch it all. But as I understand it, there are no observations, no findings, no other miscellaneous things that we should be particularly acutely aware of that we need to change.
Correct, we did not issue any management comments or findings this year. I also should have mentioned we performed the single audit work on the IDEA program, and we had no issues there either.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because the notes, that's where I usually start with your notes, to see what you need to sit down or take something, then go from there.
Right, the important stuff.
So,
I have a question.
go ahead, Mrs. Rowland, since you're the only one here.
Okay. So I can get your answer. You mentioned that there was a $6 million equivalent to profit. When we did the budget last year, we were in the red. Can you tell me the difference in the revenue between the budget and the actual, what created that?
The 6.8 is your government-wide, so that's not going to line up with any budget. Because again, the budget's done on modified accrual, and the 6.8 is the full accrual once we've taken those fixed assets and the debt and moved them onto the balance sheet. So it's not the same level that they're budgeting at. They budget at the general fund, the fund level, just for general fund. And that would be the schedule we've provided that compares the budget versus actual.
And what was the difference?
The final budget was a deficit of 3.4, and you came in at a deficit of 850.
Where's the variance?
Throughout, your local sources of revenue were higher than anticipated, and your expenses were lower overall.
Will this be posted?
Yeah, we're going to go into this in greater detail when we at a meeting, but it's going to be posted, and you'll have the numbers, so.
The budget versus actual is a page in the financial statement too. Part of
It's
the
on page,
supplementary
it's on
information.
page 1 of your, so I think that's what it is. So that'll get posted, and we'll be talking about that.
When?
So thanks, didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Casper, when do we expect to have copies of this? Because frankly, I'm not inclined to print out 69 pages on my own computer. When might they show up for us to look at in more thorough
I
detail?
think I pulled mine off of the document here. I'm not sure.
Just pages though, not the entire document.
The actual book.
Yes.
I have the rep letter dated today, so, and that really authorizes, once the board approves, we take that back and we can issue the final. It'll be out within a week. And I can send over a PDF as well as we'll mail the bound copies. So at that point, it's ready to be distributed. But yeah, we're ready to go.
Good question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The next thing, we're going to do our contracts, and Sean, that's going to shift on over to you, okay?
Okay, Mr. Casper, we have contracts listed A through J. A is Pennsylvania School to Deaf. This is for occupational physical therapy services for a student who attends that school. The next two are KidsPeace contracts for tutorial services for the students listed, and the prices or the cost listed at $40 per hour. The next one is Starlight. This is a rental of equipment for the North Middle School musical on February 27th, and the cost is $1,297. E is FuelEducation. These are online courses for kids from K-12, and this contract came through the curriculum office. So this is for the curriculum office to be able, in the district, to be able to offer online courses for kids. Great American Opportunities. This is the magazine fund driver that happens at the middle school level, all 3 middle schools for this year. Heartland Costumes. This is an interesting one. This is North Middle School, part of the drama club presentation, and this is the Ursula's necklace. So, yep, they're doing a little Mermaid. H is the East Rock Hill Township, and this is just the hold harmless agreement between the township and the school district for the radio tower that the township allowed the district to put on the township property. That tower allows us to have much better communication with our buses throughout the district, because we had a lot of dead spots. So the tower's in place and the equipment's in place. Now we just need to finish up the hold harmless agreement paperwork. The I is Michael Fallon. You may remember this contract was on our finance agenda last month, and Rob had some concerns with the language. The revisions did not come back in time for our voting meeting last month, so we pulled it from the agenda. Now the revisions came back, and Rob's happy with the revisions, so we're putting it back on for that assembly to take place in March at South Middle School. And J is the high school graduation contract in June. I believe it's June 8th, and this is with Lehigh University, and the cost is there. All of these have been reviewed and approved except for J. It's under review by the solicitor.
Okay, so does anyone have any questions or comments about any of these contracts? Mrs. Jarley?
Yeah. FuelEducation, could we get more information? It seems to be the licenses for single students, some middle school, some high school, it says, and some are AP. So just some more explanation about what they are.
Okay.
And we're not, this won't be voted on until January.
Correct.
Correct. And then, I was wondering the date for graduation. I mean, before, I don't know, it was always a secret, and then we had 2 dates, and so now, I mean, is this the date? And is it possible it might change, or?
No, I asked Mr. Bona that, Mrs. Yardley, and in the past, Lehigh used to give, I guess, people 2 dates, and the last 2 years, they've only given 1, like you have to zero in on the one that you want. So Mr. Bona said she gets calls as early as September from parents of seniors, when is the graduation. So last year and this year, she did announce that we knew the date in December. So it's June 8th.
Okay, so it was a change in Lehigh's policy then, because
Apparently,
it used
yes.
to be, right, we never quite were sure when it was going to be.
It's also a change in our policy, or at least procedure, because we never announced it until April 1 because of the potential for snow, ice, and other inclement weather.
Right.
This doesn't give that latitude, frankly. I've already talked to Dr. Radigan about this, and she knows that I'm not real happy with this because I'm concerned that we won't give seniors the full 180 days. I gather that if this goes as planned currently, it would give us 180 days for our seniors.
We actually, I did speak with Mr. Bone about that. We actually have, Dr. about 7 days. We could have snow days. And then beyond that, if there's more snow days, we could count hours. But to your point, if it goes beyond, I don't know how many exactly, then of course we would be penalized by the state if our seniors don't have enough hours. But we have a nice cushion there, and actually, according to what she told me, if Quakertown wanted that date also, and when they couldn't get it, they were moving to the 13th at Lehigh, but now from what I hear, they are going to a different venue so they can have June the 8th. So they're taking the same date as well, but at a different venue.
I don't know I don't remember what the last day of school is, but it's very surprising to me that we actually have a 7-day cushion. I know the hours, we can always meet the hours, even if you only do 170 days of school, because we have, doesn't seem like a long day to me, but I'm sure it does to students and parents, but a long enough day and enough school days in the calendar to easily exceed the 990 that's required at the high school. My concern is more that we put that 180 days, because this seems very early relative to past years.
I just pulled up the calendar, and so on the calendar it has the 14th as the last day, but that has the 3 snow days built in at the end, so if there are no snow days, then what do we have, 183
this year.
or 100, well, this has 187 built in, so the 184th day would be June 9th. So if there are no snow days, then the students would get out.
So there's a cushion.
Yeah.
And there's 3 snow days in the calendar.
Right there, well, right, but at the end, we have the 3 snow
After
days.
this occurs, right?
We have 187 scheduled, in addition to the snow makeup days. Right, so it looks like the last day, if there are no snow days, would be June 9th, Friday. So it does, I think just the way the calendar falls, it is earlier this year. So, which would be nice if the seniors are graduating right when the other students are finishing.
You also have holidays on the weekends. So it's short.
Yeah, what Sean is saying, this is one of those years where the holidays fall on, Christmas is on a Sunday, so it shortens the break there. We started school before Labor Day, so if you factor all those things in, that's why we were able to finish earlier.
Okay, anything else for tonight? So we'll be seeing these contracts in January.
Correct.
And that is that concludes our finance part. Want to roll right? Are you ready, Ms.